Welcome to the HICKORY Podcast. I am Dr. Ann Vertovec with my co-hosts, Sharon Anderson Morris and Wilfred Audley. HICKORY stands for Hope, Health, and Healing in concert with ourselves and the earth. Our conversations and our interviews are meant to inspire hope, health, and healing. Welcome to the HICKORY Podcast. I'm Ann Vertovec, and I'm here along with Sharon Anderson Morris and my son, Will Audley. And we have a very special podcast today, which is my mom. She passed away this fall at the young age of 100. And for the past 6 months, I've been taking care of her in my house. She was in hospice with Will helping, my husband helping, and she did need 24-hour care too, because she couldn't stand or anything, but she remained regal and sharp and playing games all the way through. And we had a wonderful 100th year celebration. So 2 years ago, we interviewed her when we were starting out with the HICKORY Podcast, but we never aired it. So I am so happy today to say that we are going to be airing the interview that Sharon had with my mom 2 years ago, and full of incredible insight on a woman who grew up in the 20th century, really in an era that's gone by, surviving the Great Depression and World War II, and living through the 50s and 60s as a young adult, youngish adult. It's really interesting. And she always believed in health and taking care of herself and looking good. And I think that's what got her to 100. So Sharon has also known her all her life along with Will. So I don't know if either of you have anything to add. Sharon?
Yeah, I would just have to say that I've interviewed a lot of people in my life, and I think this is one of my top 5, maybe my top favorite interview, because the podcast was filled with love and family and friendship and about the support that we give each other through our lifetime. And here we are today, Ann and I, all these years later, I'm not going to say the number, wonderful friends, best friends. And I feel like Will is my son, who I love dearly. And it's an honor to be part of this podcast and to have interviewed an amazing woman who turned 100 so gracefully, who I was raised by besides my own family. And who was part of a very, very big part of my family life. And I've been up to Betty my whole life, and Ed, her husband. So this rings home very close to my heart, and I hope that everybody enjoys it as much as I enjoyed being part of it.
Yes.
Yeah, that was well said, Sharon. I totally agree. You can just feel it coming off of her, and it's super interesting. Take away the fact that she is family. It's interesting objectively to hear her perspective on such a long and healthy and optimistic life that she's been through. And I think, I won't spoil it, but many times she mentions how blessed she was to have the life that she did. And, at that age of still being honored to keep going and keep moving forward, I think that mindset really kind of demonstrated who she was and represented her mindset to keep moving forward. On the more personal side, yeah, I mean, I was home helping take care of Betty every day for her last days, and you love your grandparents and you love your family, but you really get to know people when you start to live with them and you interact with them every day. And I can honestly say she became my best friend in those last couple months, because I come downstairs every day and walk into Betty's room and give her that smile, and she'd smile back, and we'd play games, and it really showed me a lot about what life is and, what life becomes, and um, leaning on the ones that you love and the ones that care about you, and hopefully that cycle continues to keep going on. I miss her dearly, but I know that she has made an impact on all of us, so she still lives with us today, and we're kind of sharing that podcast today to kind of demonstrate the effect that she has on all of us, and then how she kept going and how she kept moving forward, and that optimism that she always had. So I hope you guys enjoy.
Thank you. Yeah, you reminded me, Will, when she was in hospice and she couldn't stand and she couldn't use her hands like she wanted to, and she would try to feel sorry for herself, and you would walk in the room and say, "Hello, Betty, how are you?" And she couldn't help but smile and laugh and say, "Hey, it's still a good life." And I just love that about the last 6 months we had with her, that she still found joy despite her situation. So with that, happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and we hope you enjoy it. We are all so grateful. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm very excited about a special interview, unlike anything I've ever done. I'm Sharon Anderson Morris, co-founder of this podcast, Hickory, with Ann Vertovec, Will Audley, and myself. And I've been doing interviews with people from all over the world who've been changing the world for the past 20 years. And I've been doing that solo. And today, I think, is my favorite, probably ever, interview. And it could be my most difficult one, because I'm interviewing a woman who I love, who I grew up with. When I was growing up, I was very fortunate to be in a family that hung around two other close families. And I grew up with doing something fun at one of her houses until I went to college. And my best friend now as an adult is Ann Vertovec, and she was born 2 weeks after I was, and we've known each other that many years. And I'm not going to put the number on that one because I'm not that proud yet. But I'm very proud to introduce Betty Vertovec, who was born on September 7th, 1924. She's 98 years young. And this is the first time I've seen her in 30 years, I believe. And she doesn't look hardly one day different than when I saw her 30 years ago. And this is also one of the women that I always had as an idol, because she was so intelligent, so organized, and so active throughout my life that my family kind of joked that Betty would live to be forever. And everyone else has passed, and Betty's still here. And welcome, Betty. I'm so excited that you're here today to be, I think, our most important interview ever. And I would love to just say, you are technically called a nonagentarian. Have you heard of that? Nonagerian?
Yes.
Yeah. And you're going to be a centenarian. And then comes now a super centenarian. That's when you reach 110.
Oh, my goodness.
They don't have a word for 120 yet, but when they do, I'm sure you're going to make that. So I would love to ask you just to give us a few words today about your life. Talk about your life in any way that you'd like to. And I'll ask you, when you're done with that, some questions that I'm really curious about for our listeners.
You want me to tell you about my life?
Yes.
I had a perfect life. I was married to a very gentle man. We raised 4 children effortlessly, I think. I think everyone is still happy with me. I hope they are. And what can I say? I've had a great life. I didn't even work, so I did work for 2 weeks, and then I got pregnant, and that was the end of that. So since I raised the children, I've just played most of my life.
You have played. I watched you play tennis, play golf, play cards, play everything.
Yes.
You've
Well,
always kept your mind and your body busy.
Right. We moved to Savannah when Ed was 65 and played golf and tennis, and I played bridge. And just we traveled a lot, and we bought the place in Wisconsin, which I hope everyone enjoyed as much as we did, because it was a wonderful place and left lots of memories for everyone and lots of tears when we had to give it up.
Yeah, I remember that place. I think we went up there a few times with our families. It was
Yeah.
beautiful. You also
Right.
went to college, and that was uncommon.
I went to college. I went to Elmhurst College for 2 years. Then the war came along, and my father wouldn't let me go to school. He made me go to work. And I worked 2 years. And then I went down to the University of Illinois and became a tried-out. And by that time, Ed and I were a pair. So he hitchhiked down every Sunday and learned all the tried-out songs. And I graduated in June and got married in June 1947.
And then you became pregnant 1 year later. with
Pardon?
Then you were pregnant 1 year later with Christine.
I was 9 months later. I was pregnant with Christine.
Or Christine came along 9 months later.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get technical. What do you see, Betty? Looking now at our world, what do you see that has made such great changes since you were younger? Like, what kinds of technology changes about television or radio, or what kinds of change have you really seen have made a difference in our world since you were young?
Okay. Since I was young, and I wrote a big article on this, which I guess I'm not going to read, but I traveled as a youngster to Guide Rock, Nebraska, and to Aiken, Minnesota every summer. These were long rides. And so my invention that I approved of, we had to stay overnight in a home that they had opened to tourists, and they were very unpleasant homes. So my first invention that I have enjoyed was the motels. And I know that's not what you expected, but motels were what I liked. And then when I was 16, my uncle taught me to drive a car with a clutch. So my second invention that I really liked was the new transmission.
Automatic.
This
Yeah.
is all back in the 30s, so it's a different, I'm sure you didn't expect this, so.
This is what's beautiful. I had no idea that was coming. And the motels too. Yeah. Yes. And television.
Do you remember first watching television?
Certainly do, yes.
One or two channels, black and white.
What was that?
One or two channels available in black and white, right? With television.
Just so
I
you
don't
know,
know.
Sharon, you're cutting out a little bit. I don't know if it's
Hmm.
our internet here. So sometimes we can't see you and occasionally you freeze.
Interesting. Might be too many devices.
I don't remember much about the first programs. But I certainly remember the first televisions, and we didn't have one. And we went across the street and watched theirs when there was something at interesting to watch. But of course, there was the war, and then the FDR after the war with all of his
New Deal.
New Deal began all the road building and the house building, and the country became along and was built up. And I think a lot of it was due to FDR and his projects. And then we had the astronauts. And what else? So,
That was 1969, right?
yeah.
I remember that.
And then, of course, along came the computer and the cell phones. And I have an iPad that I live with. I use it all the time. I play bridge on it. I play Wordle on it. I play all kinds of games on it.
You
And,
text us emojis.
and I do not have a cell phone, so I text the kids when I want to talk to them and tell them to call me.
That's amazing.
So I've really enjoyed the iPad. If anything goes wrong with it, Ann's going to have one here immediately for me.
It's been fun to reconnect with Ann, out of the blue. Ann, how many years ago was that? That was 5 years ago, 6 maybe.
Yeah.
And I know that my parents would love the fact that Ann and I have been reunited, and I love Will like as if you're my own son.
Mhm.
And it's so good to see you back. I wish I could hug you, but I'll see you and I'll come and hug you. Do you I'm sure you have so many kids and grandkids. What are some of the things that you would like to share from your experience in your life that might help other younger people get through their lives? What do you enjoy that keeps you going?
What?
Health stuff that keeps you healthy or keeps you happy.
Well, playing games does. I love to play games, and I play one or two almost every day. I obviously exercise. What else do I do?
That's a lot.
I think that the playing games part is definitely a big winner. I mean, I remember growing up, and Betty always teaching me all the many different games, and a lot of my most vivid memories with Betty are trying to beat her in gin, and
Right.
she never held back. She's a competitive lady. She
Yeah.
always wanted to win, and that still instilled into me.
Yeah.
We play Wordle, every couple of days. We have about 4 or 5 running games, me and Betty, and it's our little way of connecting and keeping in touch, and also our way to keep that competition going that you've always had started in with me, from a very young age. So I truly appreciate that, and I love that about you.
You do
Yeah.
words with friends, right?
Oh yeah, Words with Friends, not
Words-
Wordle. I apologize. Yeah, Words with Friends.
But
And you and my mother used to play cards with Elda.
Elda and Seal,
Seal. Yeah.
and your mother and I. Yeah,
Yeah.
we play cards.
And you all were a very competitive bunch. I remember this.
Right.
I remember all of you playing bridge on the Willem's front porch.
Oh, sure. I remember that too. Yeah.
And Barbara Streisand would be playing in the background sometimes
Oh, right.
at their house.
Hmm.
What do you feel that you can offer your grandchildren any words of wisdom to give to your grandkids that are growing up now?
Words of wisdom to my
Mhm.
children. somehow I haven't got any. And
that's okay. That's okay.
They watch you and learn. That's what most do.
that's right. These questions are very hard for me because I don't really have very good answers.
Well, you actually have exceptional answers. It's just a weird format. So I hate to put you on the spot, but it's from a place of love.
Oh,
And I'm just, we don't have to go further. I just really would love to just have this for our families to, reach out to you, talk with you, find out what was special when we knew you when we were younger.
yeah.
We had a very special friendship and love between our families. And I think that helped me growing up tremendously. I
Yeah.
always felt like going to your house was going home.
Yeah, is that right?
Yes, I loved it there. And
Ed really enjoyed your mother of all the people. Every time we'd get together, he'd go off with her, and I would be with your dad, who was fine.
well,
And I
yeah.
enjoyed him too. But
Well, you and my dad exercised a lot and ate well.
and I went on a 36-mile bike ride with him in Utah.
You
We did.
did.
We did stop for lunch, but
Yeah.
and Ed stayed home with Lynn.
That's always how it was that I remember.
Yeah.
Ed and Mom were at home relaxing, and you and Dad were out exercising.
Yeah, right. So
It worked.
yeah.
And I've always felt like both of you were like parents to me as well. And your kids. I mean, it was a joy growing up with you. I cannot even imagine what a loss it would have been for me not to have had that experience. I always felt so loved by your family and by the Gwillums.
Yeah.
And I think we've all had problems in our lives that we've dealt with. And we've always been there for each other.
Yeah.
I'll promise you here, I will be there for Ann always, and I'll be there for Ann's children. So and we're really glad though that we had a chance to talk today, to get together today, and record this today.
Yeah.
Because I want to do this interview in 20 years with you to see if anything's changed.
20 years with me. I don't think I'll make it, but it'll be okay.
Yeah. Well, Ann, go
Did you
ahead.
want to read what you wrote, Mom?
Which one?
I don't know. You have one here, you have one there. Do you want to read it?
Well, I don't think they want to hear this. anyway.
Sure.
I
let's
bet they
read it.
do.
Well, the first one I kind of said all that, haven't I?
You said you had a perfect life.
Life with few. My father was a very gentle man, and my mother adored him, so my childhood was very happy until my first obstacle. In my junior year, my father was transferred from Kansas City to Chicago. We settled in Elmhurst, and I found myself at York, knowing no one. Not much fun and very hard to fit in and make friends. I managed to get through it, and then I was off to Elmhurst College, where I met friends, one of them Ed. He was a sophomore and I a freshman. Our second year, in the spring of 43, he was drafted. We were still only friends, but I really liked him, and he did write and tell me about his quick change from private to corporal to sergeant to the Army Air Force, and finally an officer. In the meantime, my father insisted I work during the war, so I did. In 45, I went down to the University of Illinois and became a Tridel. Ed was home by then, and our relationship grew. He hitchhiked down to me very often, and I graduated in
47.
47, and we were married in June 47. I got a job at Kodak. He went to law school, and I got pregnant immediately. Could not stand the train ride in the mornings, so quit. And that was the last time I worked. We had moved in with Ed's brother and wife after our marriage, and I was responsible for dinner every other week. I didn't know how to boil water. So this was my second obstacle. I was on the phone constantly to my mother, and the 9 months passed, and we moved to our first home just after Christine was born. It was the second floor of an old house with no back entrance, only the front stairs. Almost immediately, my father came with a long rope and tied it to something just in case we would ever need it. And that was what I wrote.
To help you to get out of the house in case of a fire.
Right.
What was that?
Yeah, the rope was for fire.
Oh, sure.
For your safety or for you to
Oh.
see, yeah, or for you to sneak out.
No, I guess I didn't make myself understand. If the fire came up the front stairs, we could go down the rope.
Right.
We never used it, but it was not safe there.
Right.
So then,
How did you feel about World War II? Did you feel like we were versus now much more patriotic during that war than where we are now as people relating to the wars that we're in currently?
wars are not going to be the same anymore. And we won't be as patriotic either.
Mm.
I did have one thing to say about what Ed said. If I thought you'd ask me, as far as our country goes, I think it's in trouble with all the politicians taking over. I can't remember what my husband called what he thought we should have, but it was something like, and he said this often, a kindly or benevolent despot. And so I just remember that so well. He just said that over and over because he couldn't stand the politicians. So
He was one of the kindest men I've ever known.
yes, he was.
And calming.
Yes. Yeah.
Calming.
He was
Yeah.
Yeah.
positive.
Right.
I know that with the passing of my mother and my father, I was with them, and I knew that I sent the love from you to them before they passed, and I saw you were their best friends, and
Oh,
I told them that you were thinking of them, and I think that really helped them because nobody ever wants to go alone. And
Yeah.
without the way that we were raised, we always had love for each other's families, and
Yeah.
it was always a secure place. It always felt safe.
We
So-
love going to Utah to visit with them.
I think that I wish I could show you this house. I think that you'd like what we did to this house.
Well, I've seen some pictures of
Did
it,
you?
and I saw you broke out from the kitchen.
Yeah. And,
That's one thing.
and my dad had his office where I'm in right now. This is my office now. And looking
Oh.
over 6 mountain ranges, he had a little tiny window. And I changed that.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Because if you're going to be working up here, you should be able to look at all those mountains that he loved so much.
Yeah.
And it's funny also, my mother wanted a dumbwaiter always. So even though
Oh.
I knew I would never use it, we got the dumbwaiter because I wanted to do it for mom.
Oh, so the dumb waiter goes from where to where?
Goes from the garage to the kitchen.
From the garage. Oh, sure.
And I can actually bring it to the second floor if I do another renovation. But that's
Oh.
just to push people into to get them up to their bedrooms. I don't think I need that yet.
No.
Not yet.
Oh,
Almost not quite there yet, though.
sure.
Well, Anne gave me a quote, which I'm going to read from. Anne, I love the quotes that you sent. Because I don't want to push you to do anything or say anything about anything other than to learn from you and your experiences so that other people can get inspired and know that, you know what, you can reach 98 years old and be happy and healthy. And I think it's a lot of that is because of the love and support of your family and your friends.
Mhm.
And Anne's quote that she sent me, which I do like, is from Abe Lincoln, saying, in the end, it's not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years. And I believe that fully.
I read that. Yes, that's very nice.
For, what was it, Dad's 85th that we went on the cruise and we had T-shirts made? And we put that on there. I think it was his 85th, right? Isn't that when we went on the cruise?
That would be about right.
Yeah, yeah. So the adults went, but we had T-shirts made for everyone. Will
Yeah.
maybe you still have your T-shirt
Yeah,
somewhere?
I think somewhere I do in the
Yeah.
closet.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a great quote.
Uh,
But
Ed died so easily. He died in his sleep with a smile on his face,
oh,
and he was ready to go.
yeah.
They put him on dialysis when he was 90, and it was much too hard on him. So although I miss him terribly, I know he's happier
You'll be
that
with them.
that he left. Yes.
You'll be
Yeah.
with them, and you're going to be with my parents too.
Yeah. So
But right now, you know, Betty, honestly, right now, I would say you look about 72 years old, maybe 73, pushing it. You look beautiful. And you
well,
always have.
thank you. Thank you.
It's true.
I really feel kind of 98-ish, 98 most of the time, but I just keep going.
Sometimes I feel 98 too.
Yeah.
I keep on going. Ann and I don't know how much she's talked with you about getting reconnected again, but she and I do some of the same similar things to try to help us do a restart if something's bothering us, if we're tired, if we're stressed out. And I think that you started this with her, you and Ed, about connecting with nature. Because when we connect with nature, it grounds us. And it brings us back to who we are, I think.
I never have had much stress. I just don't seem to have it. The only thing I ever stressed out about was when the children were home, and every morning I'd wake up and think, what'll I have for dinner? Ed came home and we all ate dinner as a family until they all left. But that was my biggest stress, was what in the world will I have for dinner?
The way that you carry yourself, the way that you view your life and others' lives, what you've done to keep yourself healthy, that's a big one. You know, you've exercised and ate well, and look at where you are. You look beautiful. You're an inspiration.
Well, thank you. Glad.
I could say thank you so much, Betty, and we can sign off.
It was wonderful seeing you.
Yeah, I love seeing you.
And wonderful seeing Will down there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's always good to see you, Betty.
he's awesome.